Hello, my name is Alex Vargas. I'm an independent filmmaker here in the Bay Area, San Francisco. This is my tool of choice, and while I use it for my general shooting, I'm shooting a feature film at the moment, I use it with a depth of field adapter and prime lenses attached to it. On its own, and for this tutorial, I will only show the camera as it is. This is an amazing camera, a 3 1/2-inch sensor camera, which I'm about to demonstrate in just a few seconds. This is the Sony PMW XD Cam EX-1. We're going to call it the EX-1. And to start shooting, we need a battery that will plug into the back of the camera, like this, and an S/S 32 gigabyte card in this case, which will go into slot A of 2 slots. When recording, once one memory card is recorded, finished, completed, it jumps onto the next card to continue recording automatically. We'll then switch it on. The switch is in the back. It's switched on now. I'll open the LCD screen and remove the shutter, the lens shutter, which normally is open and closed this way, but it will be removed for this tutorial. Now we will set the format that we will shoot in, and to do that we have to go into the menus. The menu button to do that, to access the menus, is right over here. We are now in the menus. We're ready to shoot. For this, I'm going to remove the memory card that I've used to demonstrate the camera, and I'm going to show it to you and tell you that it needs to be cleaned up, because I want to shoot only new material on this memory card. So I'm going to make sure that it's empty when I start shooting, or that I don't delete anything that may be there that I don't want to delete. It's a precaution. Apart from that, I want to set the format, which in this case will be 1080p 30 frames per second, high definition, highest quality. To do this, now that I've got the memory card in the slot A, I'm going to access the menus. And in the menus, I'm going to navigate to where I can choose to delete my clips. I have 2 options, deleting my last clip or all clips, and that's what I'm choosing now. Execute, that's what it's asking me, and I click on that. All clips delete, it asks me again as a security, just in case I delete my entire last day's shoot. I say yes, and it's now executing. It takes this time to remove approximately all clips delete. Done. Now that I know this, that's taken me back to the menu. I'm going to update Media Card A, execute. Now that it's updated, I'm going to choose my format. And so I go to video format, where I will choose high quality 1080 30p, progressive, that is, 30 frames per second, progressive. I select it, and now that it is selected, I get out of the menu, and I'm ready to shoot. We're going to set the white balance manually, which is basis for good cinematography. To do this, we need to have the camera set to all manual settings, except for the iris, which has to be set to auto. With this button over here, push it backwards and it's set to auto. Now, there is a button, a white balance button, right under the lens, the front of the camera, which is a white balance button. We're going to point it at our white balance card and then press the white balance button, which is now executing our white balance, which is resulting on a 4500K. And now we set back the iris to manual. Our white balance is set. The good thing about the menus is that you can access most important functions for this camera through outside buttons and rings. The lens itself has 3 rings, as any professional camera would, and they really have a very good feel. The focus ring, for example, which can be set to manual or automatic, when set to manual has an amazing real feel, because it is a focus ring. and not some digital focus adjuster. There's a zoom ring over here, which is also accessed through the bottom of the camera. There's a servo button which will switch so that you can use it to manual or through the server rocker button over here on the camera. And then there's the exposure ring, which is over here, again, with a very good field. There are accesses to gain control. There are 3 settings: average, low, high, and medium. And of course, the settings for these low, high, and medium can be adjusted through the menus to your like, to each one of them. There is the white balance preset buttons with 2 presets. And there are zebra and peaking function. I will get on to peaking function eventually. For now, zebra, I'm sure you do know, it is to control your exposure. And that's one of the purposes that it serves. It can be accessed or just turned on or off through the outside. There is also a slot to enter 2 memory cards, as I mentioned earlier. And then the audio. On this side as well, we have 2 rotating knobs to control independently the 2 audio channels that can be chosen to be internal using the stereo mic in the front of the camera, or external through 2 XLR microphones with, of course, 48-volt phantom power and the choice for line if that's what you're recording. Music, the output from a mixer, who knows. But normally I use a shotgun mic or 2. There is then access to the menus, and to the menus from the button here to the left and the back. To control, to navigate the menus, there is a wheel in the bag, a jog wheel, but I like this jog stick, I would call it, here in the top of the camera, because with it I can access my menus through the LCD screen. Right over here, by pressing the jog wheel, I'm now on the shutter speed, and I can navigate to go to the gain or the f-stop or the picture profiles, which I'll talk about in a second, or my white balance. I can change it here too. I can choose what settings to have on my screen. So you can have different settings to go from one to another in the push of a button, basically. You go in, select with the jog wheel, choose which picture profile you want, click on it, and you're there, ready to go. Click on pictures, and now you're on a new picture profile, which looks completely different. It's up to you. On the top, there are some buttons to, well, there are some bells and whistles that we're not going to get into, but basically there's one that I like, and that's the status. When you press the status button, it gives you all the information as to your main settings for your camera right now. White balance, A and B, because there are 2 presets on it that I have previously done. It'll give me my handle zoom speed, skin tone detail if I have it on or not, and which picture profile I have on. The gain settings, the zebra, if it's on or off, I can choose what to have here as well. I'm going to turn it off. And the other thing that I like is that I can remove the entire display with one button if I want to see my LCD completely clean with no detail, with no number details of any kind, just the picture. But I'm bringing it back now. There's also bars. If you want to see your bars, so if you need to calibrate a monitor, one button, and your monitor connected, external monitor I'm talking about, connected to your camera will present the bars. One button will remove them. If you wanted a monitor connected to your camera, you can do it through various connections. The one that I use is the one with highest quality, uncompressed signal, high definition, through an SDI plug here at the back of the camera. I'm going to move it slightly to the left and bring it back in a second. It's over here. This is the SDI out. It's the only uncompressed signal. There is HD sent through other outputs, but this is the only uncompressed signal. That's about it. There is a rotating grip over here that can help with the camera. It rotates, as you can see, the way that I'm doing it now, which can help you hold your camera in different positions. If you have it over here or down here, you can actually rotate it all the way down here, which in this case would be an equivalent of having the camera pointed towards you with me having the camera in my hands. To the left of the on and off switch and picture profile buttons, we have on the top left corner the select button, which is the button that functions directly with the menu button on the left side of the camera, which I'm pointing at now. So pressing the menu button can be then, takes us then to the menus which we can navigate with the select button. Pressing it will select which area of the menus we want to be in. Rotating it will navigate through the different submenus. Pressing it again will select the different submenus and eventually the values that we want to apply to each one of these submenus. To exit the menu section, we press the menu button on the left side of the camera again, and we're out of the menus again. Below the menu buttons, sorry, the select button, below the select button on the back of the camera, we have volume controls. These are directly connected to the rotating volume knob buttons here, two of them, one for each one of the volume channels. Channel 1 is on top, channel 2 on the bottom. This is where you choose where you're going to be recording automatic sound or manual sound controls. I have them always on manual, but you have the choices here. And if you're choosing manual, you must use these rotating knobs to the left for each one of the channels to adjust the maximum level of audio. You will be then choosing to be recording on each one of the channels, to be recording either internal microphone, these on the front that I've shown earlier, or external microphones, which are located on the right side of the camera, and we'll be looking at in a second. Now this is where the XLR inputs are and the other functions on the right side of the camera. Over here we have channel 1 and 2 with 48 volt phantom power and the option to also select line in case you're shooting and recording music from a mixer, for example. You could have right and left channel going in straight through the line recording instead, or instruments. We also have the grip that I was talking about earlier on, which can be rotated to help with the balance of the camera when you're moving around. On the rotating grip, there is a recording button over here, over here. There's also a recording button over here, I'd like to clarify. There's the zoom, rocking zoom knob, and there's also a remote control for the zoom, a remote control input over here. Additionally, we have some output connectors over here, the bottom, and opening this lid. So on the right side, for outputs, video outputs and sound, we have under the grip, the rotating grip, a lid that we can lift, and then we have three outputs. One of them is an AV output, a component output, which is full HD, compressed, and then we have a USB, which is used to upload images or transfer images from the camera to a computer. The component output is compressed. The SDI output over here, however, is uncompressed, 422 uncompressed, bypassing the Sony camera's compression and allowing for a much better quality picture. That can be used on external monitors or even external recorders. Okay, I'm all for manual. I don't like auto. But if you're on the street and you have to shoot a documentary, guerrilla style, there's no time for manual settings. Automatic settings are essential. So we're going to talk about automatic exposure settings, automatic focus settings, and manual. To begin with, I'd like to mention that there is a blue color line all over my LCD at the moment. This is what I was referring to as the peaking function. So please bear with me until I get to explain why it is there. I'm just going to remove it while you're watching so that you can see that it's a setting and it can be removed. I'm going to remove it right now. It's gone. That's the screen without it. I'm going to put it back in there. That's the screen with it. For automatic exposure, we have to have all settings to automatic. For iris or aperture over here, and for focus below, right over here. Now I have to lean a little bit. It's now set to automatic over here. If we set the full automatic function over here, then everything will be set to automatic. Luckily, we can only set, the focus and the exposure separately to automatic, which we've just done. Now, I'm going to zoom all the way into a subject far away. If you're looking at the LCD at the moment, I'm going to focus in to something in the back of the room. Zoom in. That's what I meant to say, excuse me. I'm all zoomed in and it's now in focus. What I'm going to do now is pan away from that subject to something that is right in front of me, about 5 feet in front of me, as opposed to the 30 feet away that we're now looking at through the LCD. I'm going to move now to the subject that is right in front of me so that we can observe the automatic functions of exposure and focus at work. As you can see, it's already in focus, and it's already changed the exposure very much at the same speed that the focus went about. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so that you can actually see the subject that I am pointing at. And I'll take the chance now to explain what this peaking function is all about. The blue colors that you're seeing are actually demonstrating or defining that all these edges where there is a blue color on the edge are in sharp focus. I'm going to remove the peaking function just for a second. I'm going to press the button of the peaking function right out here on the side of the camera to remove it, just to make sure that you see that without it, it is in focus, but you can't really see it. Now, I use an external field monitor, which I connect to the camera through the SDI port, the output over here. I thought that I would use it to focus better, but in fact, it does not help me focus better than this peaking function. My experience is that this is the best tool, the peaking function of this camera, for me to focus, even on this small LCD screen. Actually, it's not that small, but it's an amazing tool to focusing. It's actually sharp on all my shots. I'm going to put it back on, and focus back at the subject in the back. Still an automatic, but now I'm going to switch it to manual, all of it to manual. The iris, or aperture, set to manual, and the focus set to manual, requires now that I pull the focus ring located over here, I have to pull it backwards to its manual position, which I'm going to do now. It is now set to manual position, and with it now I can manually focus the subject in the back. I am zoomed in all the way, and as you can see, it's out of focus. I hope that it is possible for you to see that it is out of focus. What we're going to see is that the peaking function will kick in, and we will see blue edges as soon as it is in focus. Here we go. That's when I know that I am in sharp focus. Now the camera could do the camera could do that for me automatically. I prefer to use it manually when it is not a problem, meaning if I'm not on the street after a car that I need to have in focus, or a cyclist or somebody running. If it's a shot on sticks and I have the time, I will use manual focus and manual exposure. Now that's the focus. The exposure ring is over here. And because it's now set to manual, I can use my thumb, which is what I normally do, to find the right exposure. There are different ways to do that. There is a histogram, a built-in histogram. It's not the best, but it gives you a pretty good idea of when you are overexposing or not. That's also a button away. Right over here, there's a little button right over here. And as soon as I press this button, the histogram appears on the LCD screen, bottom right corner. It's telling me that I'm a little off, so I'm going to move it slightly to the right. I think that's better exposure. Now I turn it off. Generally, by now, I just use my eye to evaluate if the exposure is good, but just to double check, it's okay to use the histogram. In general, as I say, I already have a pretty good idea. You get used to it. So I would say that this is in focus. Now, to focus to my subject 5 feet away, I'll move my camera and pan and tilt to find my subject, which in front of me will be underexposed and, as you can see, out of focus, which I'm going to achieve manually now easily by rotating my focus ring over here. Even underexposed, I haven't changed the exposure yet because I want to make a point out of this. Even underexposed with little light coming in through the lens, I can still see the peaking function telling me that it's sharp in focus. Now I'm going to adjust the exposure, which in reality one should do before the focus, because then you have more light and then the peaking function will be more obvious. But I wanted to make a point as to how well it works. Now I'll change the exposure, and as you can see, the peaking function increases this blue color, telling me that it is definitely sharp in focus. Just for the sake of it, let's check the histogram and see if I hit it right. I'm punching it in and, oh well, I'm a little bit off, so I'm going to adjust my exposure a little bit to take it to where it would be best. And that's where it is. You take away the histogram, zoom out, and here we are. Sharp in focus, all blue. Now that we wrapped up our shoot, we're ready to look at our material. To do this, we're going to switch the camera on, but this time not into the camera position, but to the media position, which allows us to look at our media, to playback our media. It takes a few seconds to come on, and then here we have the 3 clips that we shot. So we're going to use the Jogwheel up here on the controls, which are located above the lens, on the microphone next to the XLR inputs. And we're going to choose the first clip to see how that worked. I have the feeling that the audio wasn't that ideal. Okay, but a little low. We're going back to the thumbnails, which we access through the thumbnail button. And we go to the next clip. Press play. Go back to the thumbnail position to see the last clip. We press play.
All right, here's the deal. 42 years ago, I went to film school and I thought that, fuck man, I'm going to be rich, I'm going to be famous, I'm going to take Hollywood by storm. And, none of that shit happened.